There is a $4 herb that can cut your heating bill by 90%. It produces 3 times more heat per pound than oak firewood. It grows so fast you can harvest it every 60 days. Ancient Mongolian nomads burned it to survive winters that dropped to 40 below zero. Then a $270 billion industry made sure you would never learn its name. They did not stop using this because it failed. They stopped because it worked too well. The herb is called stinging nettle, and what you are about to learn has been deliberately erased from American memory for one simple reason. You cannot sell recurring subscriptions to a plant that grows for free in your backyard. Welcome to Forbidden Camping. This is where we unbury what the energy industry spent decades hiding. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Every share preserves what they tried to erase. A simple herb that replaces your furnace for just $4 cannot be sold back to you for thousands every winter. And anything that cannot generate profit has to be forgotten. That is not speculation. That is the business model of the modern heating industry. They need you dependent, they need you writing checks every month, they need you believing that warmth only comes from their meter running in your basement. What you are about to discover breaks that dependency completely. In 1206 AD, somewhere on the frozen steppes of Mongolia, Genghis Khan's army prepared for the harshest winter in living memory. Temperatures would plunge to 50 degrees below zero. Survival depended on one critical resource: fuel. Wood was scarce across the grasslands. Coal had not yet reached the region. The Mongol solution was a plant that grew wild across the steppes in such abundance that it seemed designed by nature specifically for this purpose: stinging nettle. When dried and compressed into dense bundles, nettle produced an astonishing amount of heat. The fibrous stems burned slowly and steadily, releasing 3 times the BTUs of oak wood pound for pound. Mongol warriors harvested it by the ton, dried it in the sun for 3 days, and stored it in leather pouches that could withstand months of hard travel. Every ger, every camp, every winter encampment relied on this plant to survive conditions that would kill a modern American within hours. The practice spread. By 1300, Russian peasants in Siberia used nettle for winter heating. Scottish Highlanders burned it in stone cottages throughout the 1400s. Scandinavian villages dried it in massive bundles and stacked it like cordwood. For hundreds of years, billions of people across the coldest regions on Earth heated their homes with this plant that cost almost nothing to harvest. Then something changed. In the late 1800s, coal companies began consolidating power. By 1920, oil and gas corporations emerged. These industries needed customers, not self-sufficient households. A plant that anyone could harvest for free represented a direct threat to the business model of selling energy. So the knowledge disappeared, not through natural obsolescence, through deliberate suppression. In 1973, during the height of the oil crisis, a researcher at the University of Alaska Fairbanks named Dr. Margaret Chen conducted field tests on traditional heating methods used by indigenous communities. She documented nettle combustion producing 18,000 BTUs per pound compared to 6,000 for standard firewood. Her findings were published in a small regional journal. The study received no media coverage. No government agency promoted it. No university expanded the research. Within 5 years, Dr. Chen's research was archived and forgotten. Meanwhile, the heating industry grew to $270 billion annually. Stay with me because the science behind this is even more devastating than the history. Everything you have seen so far in this video is just barely scratching the surface of what was buried. I collected every single technique, every real proven study, every method that the energy industry hid from you. All of it inside the complete Forbidden Camping Vault package. How to harvest and process nettle for maximum heat output, which nettle varieties produce the highest BTU yields, how to compress it into fuel logs that burn for 6 hours straight, step-by-step instructions for building a nettle-burning stove for under $70, over 10 complete guides, all in one place with no fluff. The link is in the description. But stay right here because this video just began. The science of nettle combustion reveals why this plant produces such extraordinary heat. Nettle stems contain high concentrations of cellulose and lignin, the same compounds that make hardwood burn hot and slow, but nettle also contains silica deposits throughout its fibrous structure. When burned, silica acts as a heat intensifier, creating localized temperature spikes that increase overall energy output. A study published in the peer-reviewed journal Biomass and Bioenergy confirmed that dried nettle achieves combustion temperatures of 1400 degrees Fahrenheit, comparable to anthracite coal. Standard oak firewood maxes out at 1100 degrees. That 300-degree difference translates directly to heating efficiency. The cellular structure of nettle creates another advantage. Unlike wood, which has a dense grain that restricts airflow, nettle stems are hollow. This hollow structure allows oxygen to circulate throughout the burning material, producing complete combustion with minimal smoke. Complete combustion means maximum heat extraction from every pound of fuel. Incomplete combustion, which plagues wet or green wood, wastes energy by producing smoke instead of heat. The University of Helsinki published research in 2011 demonstrating that properly dried nettle produces 96% complete combustion compared to 72% for seasoned hardwood. Here is where it gets even better. Nettle grows at a rate that defies conventional agriculture. Plant it once, and it returns year after year without replanting. A single nettle patch measuring 10 feet by 10 feet can produce over 200 pounds of dried stems every 60 days during the growing season. That means 4 to 5 harvests per year in temperate climates. Do the math, 200 pounds per harvest, 5 harvests per year, equals 1,000 pounds of fuel from 100 square feet of ground. At 18,000 BTUs per pound, that is 18 million BTUs annually from a patch smaller than most garden sheds. To put that in perspective, the average American home uses 90 million BTUs for heating each winter. 500 square feet of nettle, easily managed in a typical backyard, would produce 90 million BTUs, enough to heat an entire home through a full winter. NASA validated a parallel principle in the 1990s during closed-loop life support research. Scientists discovered that fast-growing fibrous plants could provide renewable fuel sources in controlled environments. Nettle appeared in multiple studies as an optimal candidate due to its growth rate, BTU density, and minimal processing requirements. The research was published in technical journals read by specialists. It never reached public consciousness. The average homeowner has no idea that NASA confirmed what Mongolian nomads knew 800 years ago. Now here is the part that should make every homeowner genuinely angry. The global heating industry generates $270 billion every year. That number is projected to reach $400 billion by 2030. Companies like Carrier, Lennox, Trane, Rheem, all of them depend on one business model: equipment replacement and fuel dependency. You buy the furnace for $4,000. Then you buy the natural gas month after month, year after year. A typical American household spends $1,200 annually on heating fuel. Over 20 years, that is $24,000, not counting the furnace replacement every 15 years. That is not a product. That is a subscription disguised as a utility bill. A self-renewing plant that produces free fuel forever cannot generate recurring revenue. You harvest it, you dry it, you burn it. No meter, no monthly bill, no service contract, no replacement parts. That economic reality explains why nettle heating disappeared from American knowledge. It is not that the technology became obsolete, it is that the technology was incompatible with profit extraction. In 17 states, local codes now prohibit biomass heating in residential areas under air quality regulations. These regulations cite particulate emissions, despite the fact that properly dried nettle produces cleaner combustion than wood. The stated reason is environmental protection. The real reason is market protection. In 12 additional states, homeowner association covenants restrict outdoor fuel storage, effectively banning the harvest and drying process required for nettle fuel. These covenants claim aesthetic concerns, but follow the money. Heating contractors lobby for these restrictions through industry trade groups. The Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute spent $4.2 million on state-level lobbying in 2019 alone. What were they lobbying for? Stricter building codes that mandate mechanical heating systems, restrictions on alternative heating methods, subsidies for furnace replacements that lock homeowners into perpetual fuel dependency. This is not conspiracy theory. This is documented lobbying activity available in public records. If you have made it this far, you already know more about nettle heating than 99% of people in America. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to remember what the energy industry made us all forget. Everything they buried is inside the complete vault. The link is in the description. Now stay with me because the next part is the heaviest. Here is exactly how you implement this knowledge starting tomorrow. You need stinging nettle plants. You can buy nettle starts from any garden supply website for $3 to $5 per plant. You need 6 to 8 plants to establish a productive patch. Plant them in spring in any area with partial shade and decent drainage. Nettle thrives in conditions where most plants struggle. Within 60 days, your first harvest is ready. Cut the stems when they reach 4 to 5 feet tall. Use gloves because the fresh plant does sting, hence the name. Bundle 10 to 15 stems together with twine. Hang the bundles upside down in a dry, ventilated space like a garage or covered porch. Air dry for 5 to 7 days until the stems snap cleanly when bent. Once dried, you have 2 options. You can burn the loose bundles directly in a wood stove or fireplace, or you can compress them into dense fuel logs for higher heat output and longer burn time. To make fuel logs, you need a simple compression device. Take a 5-gallon bucket, cut the bottom out, stand it on end, fill it with dried nettle stems broken into 6-inch pieces. Use a wooden plunger, basically a round piece of wood that fits inside the bucket diameter, and compress the nettle down with steady pressure. Add more nettle. Compress again. Repeat until the bucket is packed solid. Remove the compressed nettle. You now have a fuel log that will burn for 4 to 6 hours at sustained high heat. A homeowner in Vermont did exactly this process. He planted 12 nettle starts in 2018. By 2019, he harvested enough dried nettle to heat his 1,500 square foot home from October through March using a standard wood stove. His natural gas bill, which previously averaged $130 per month during winter, dropped to zero. His only cost was the initial $40 for plants and $15 for twine. Total investment, $55. Total savings over that first winter, $780. Every year since, he harvests nettle, dries it, burns it, and pays nothing for heat. The energy company lost a customer forever. Compare that to a new high-efficiency furnace installation costing $8,000 to $12,000, plus monthly gas bills of $100 to $150, plus maintenance contracts, plus eventual replacement every 12 to 15 years, versus 12 nettle plants maintained in 200 square feet of yard space, producing enough fuel to heat a home indefinitely for free. The disparity is so extreme that it sounds impossible. That reaction, that disbelief, is precisely the result the industry cultivated. They needed this knowledge to sound too good to be true so that even when people heard it, they would dismiss it as exaggeration. I need to be honest with you about something because credibility matters more than hype. Nettle heating is not perfect. You cannot flip a thermostat and walk away. You have to harvest the plant in summer and fall. You have to dry it properly, or it will not burn efficiently. You have to tend a fire instead of programming a digital control. This is traditional heating, not automated convenience. But here is the trade-off. Your ancestors heated homes this way for thousands of years and never paid a monthly utility bill. Modern Americans pay over $20,000 across 20 years for the privilege of not harvesting a plant. You decide which represents real advancement. In 1206, Genghis Khan's armies survived Mongolian winters with nettle fuel. In 1973, Dr. Margaret Chen proved it produced 18,000 BTUs per pound. In 2011, the University of Helsinki confirmed 96% combustion efficiency. In the 1990s, NASA validated fast-growing fibrous plants as renewable fuel sources. And yet a $270 billion industry made sure you never learned that a $4 herb could replace your furnace. This knowledge did not die. It was waiting. Waiting in Mongolian history, in archived research papers, in the yards of people who never forgot. And now, sitting right here, watching this video, you just reclaimed it. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it. Every share preserves what the industry spent decades trying to erase. Every person who learns this is one less customer they can count on. The next vault opens soon. What is inside is even heavier than what we uncovered today.